Be amazing to interview some of the people founding collectives out here in East Africa. There are women and men leading the techno movement out here, such as in Kenya and Uganda. I think those are the voices that are very important to be elevated to wider audiences.
We set out certainly to be global communities, and not we've done a lot of Washington DC, obviously, because that's where we're based.
So.
But as we get going, like it's refreshing to hear not just the new voices, but the appetite for the music from new voices and people talking about their experience, and as whether it's as a performer or a promoter or just someone who enjoys house music. It's been pretty exciting for us to hear those voices. So
yeah. And thank you guys for having me. This is my first podcast ever. And, I'm super new to the scene. So it's really nice to see you guys embracing not just experienced producers, but also people who are branching into electronic music, because it makes it very accessible to people who are interested in the field and taking on this artistry.
Hey, what's good, my friends? Thanks so much for checking out the Open Decks podcast. You just heard a preview of our conversation with NANGOBI. Ryan and I sat down with her this week to talk about her experience in East Africa, where she's been for the last couple of years. And she actually began her journey as a DJ while there. And so she's got an interesting perspective on kind of starting her musical journey as a performer. She's been working with a collective called Femme Frequencies. You'll hear about their events, and also some of the other up-and-coming talent in Uganda and East Africa. Thanks for stopping by to check out the Open Decks podcast. Hope you enjoy the conversation.
So how long have you been DJing?
I started in like 2020, 2021, the pandemic, right?
Okay.
Like a lot of people.
Yeah.
How about you?
I think I just hit a year.
Okay.
Yeah, last month. So very, very new for sure.
How did you get into it? Like what prompted you to get into it?
Yeah, so I was a raver first. I'm pretty new to this entire scene. So I was first introduced to nightlife and live music shows, I'd say January of 2023. And I fell in love with it after that point. And when I got to Uganda, I was super lucky to see that there was a small scene for electronic music here. There's a techno collective here in Uganda called Underground KAMPALA. So I started going to those shows just for fun. Absolutely love them. And after getting to know the founder a bit more, he said to me, if you want to learn how to DJ, we have a spot for you to play. So I started taking lessons here, and that was that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. What are you playing on? What gear are you using right now?
I have an FLX4, just a small thing. For performances, sometimes I use the Pioneer with the built-in controller. I think it's the DJJ like X something.
Probably the XZ.
XZ, yeah. One thing about Uganda is that there isn't a lot of great advanced equipment available. So I think the DDJ XC, I think there's only one of those controllers available for the entirety of the country to rent. Wow. Yeah. So it's very rare that we get an event that offers that for DJs. If that's not available, or if that's too expensive to rent, people will just have to use their FLX4 or DDJ 400 small controller. Yeah. So it's quite a different scene.
I think you some of the clubs and places that we've all played, the gear is, I guess, by standard better, but it's been so beaten up that sometimes it's like, why bother? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. It's the same here in Uganda. I guess that would be true for DC as well. But I'm super curious. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're good.
I'm super curious. Just now that I'm breaking more into the event curating and planning space here, it's just I'd love to compare the cost of like getting all this equipment and like lighting rentals and sound rentals. Like how different is it in the States versus in a country like Uganda?
Yeah, what is a typical like venue, typical crowd like where you are in Uganda for your events?
It really varies. So for the techno events, I'd say there are maybe 2 to 3 really good venues. And by good venues, it's a bit far off from what you'd envision for a techno warehouse rave.
Sure.
I guess a lot of them are rooftop venues. So the last techno event we had with the collective I'm a part of, it's on a rooftop. It's partially covered, partially uncovered. It's in an industrial area of town. Some of my other gigs that I do are more mainstream at some of the more popular bars in the capital. For example, tonight I'm playing at a bar called Otters, which is it's pretty standard, just this indoor, place people go on the weekends for a chill time. Not so much very dancey. A lot of the bars in Uganda are oriented towards bottle service, so you don't really have
Mhm.
those nightclubs that are purely for dancing, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate. I hope one gets built in the near future.
Do you find that even that you're able to get, like we've talked a lot about like the relationship between like performer and the dance floor and the crowd. Like, do you get a lot of feedback or response from the dance floor, or is it still kind of you're just playing to like bottle service tables, etc.?
Oh gosh, yeah, this has been really challenging. I mean, the great thing about learning to DJ in Uganda is that you have a lot more opportunities to play, since it's a pretty undersaturated market. But the crowds in Uganda, I would say, are very picky about the music that they like. So it can be a
Yeah.
real struggle getting people to dance. So for context, the biggest genre in East Africa that people love is Afro beats, amapiano, and Afro house. So anything that strays away from those three genres or mainstream pop music or rap can be a real struggle. So I played at some events where I feel pressured to play these bigger hits, play Afro beats, Afro house. Those typically get a very good reaction from the crowd. But for example, when you're playing techno, it can definitely be more of a challenge. It can turn people away, especially in um, really Ugandan heavy audiences. So
Yeah.
it's really a challenge. It really depends on the event and the crowd you're playing to.
How much are you pushing the tempo at I mean, I know you said it depends on the crowd, but like, do you find yourself kind of always trying to push the tempo a little bit and push your own sound, or are you kind of playing what the crowd wants to hear at the event, at the performance, and then practicing, or kind of when you're on your own time pushing your own sound?
Yeah, I think at first I really leaned heavily into what people wanted to hear. I mean, I feel like each venue wants a very particular type of sound played to people,
Mhm.
and people are a lot more critical of the music, especially electronic music genres here. Um, but yeah, I think nowadays, since I've kind of hit my year mark of DJing and I'm more experienced in the scene, I try to incorporate more of my own preferences. So, for example, tonight, it's more of an open format event happening. Not really sure what the crowd is going to be like, but I'm aiming to put more of my own house music songs and preferences in there versus only playing Afro house or on the piano.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the are you learning mostly on your own, or do you I mean, you have your collective, like are you learning with your collective, or are they more experienced? How's that working out?
Yeah, so I'd say so when I first started DJing, I took lessons with a DJ in Kampala for about maybe one month, only about 3 to 4 weeks. And after that point, I felt good enough to learn, from YouTube and just personal
Yeah.
experience. Um, the other DJs in my collective Femme Frequencies are a bit more experienced. So we share information, at performances and all that. But I think the great thing about the East African DJ market is that it's very undersaturated. So even though I've only been DJing a year, I've gotten to perform much more often than I would if I had learned in the United States. So
Sure.
yeah, every weekend I usually play for 1 to 2 hours. It's given me some really good hands-on experience. And I remember somebody in the scene once told me that the amount of hours you put in, in your bedroom with the equipment, it's a completely different world than the experience that you're getting when you actually play to a crowd in a venue connected to a sound system. I think, that performance experience is super valuable. And I think that's what's going to take you to the next level as a DJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Do you find yourself, again, like I kind of asked this a little bit earlier, like, do you find yourself playing a totally different style when you're practicing, or are you trying to translate what you're practicing to the venue, to the dance floor more?
I think most of the times I practice for the event I'm playing.
Yeah.
I will say that my equipment isn't super sophisticated. I have one of the more beginner controllers out there. Um, some of the music I really like to play and want to branch more into is very hypnotic Berlin techno. For that, I feel like you would need maybe 2 to 3 CDJs to get some of those interesting layers and complexities of that music, which at this point, I can't do that with my equipment. But yeah, right now I usually practice for the sets. So tech house, Chicago house, preparing for my techno sets as well with my collective. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I listened to your SoundCloud that you posted, I think last week or earlier this week. A lot of Chicago house, a lot of like bouncy, funky sounds in there too. It was good. I liked that. I was
thank you.
Like, it's one of those just kind of like press play, and an hour, 2 hours later, I'm listening to the next one in sequence. Like, made it all the way through. Yeah, it was good.
Okay.
Some similar stuff that I'd been playing last weekend. So I was like, oh, this sounds familiar. I really like this. Like,
thank you. Yeah, I feel like Chicago house is a bit more acceptable to people here. I think with the use of lyrics and the groove and the melodies involved. I think one thing about the electronic scene in East Africa is that people really like lyrics and connect with melodies and lyrics, because that's the foundation of Afro beats, which really has been popularized here. So I think with techno, for example, you really have to be careful not to go to Berlin, too industrial, too monotonous very quickly. You have to find an interesting balance between incorporating lyrics and melodies, but also that meditative techno sound that people like. Yeah.
Have it's the Afro beats. There's a lot of Afro beats has that call and response to it, right? Like do you find yourself playing that stuff out a lot, or is it just not your, like, stylistically not where you're at right now?
Yeah, sadly, I just have not been able to get on the Afrobeats train. I don't know what it is, but it's just not really my genre of music. I don't know about yourself, but yeah, I think Afro house and amapiano are much more my style, because they incorporate, African vocals, tribal elements, but also have that kind of meditative beat that I like in certain genres of music.
Well, it must be interesting whether it's Afro beats and techno or whichever genres, like, to peel back elements that get a good response where you are, and then either consciously or subconsciously begin to incorporate that into what you enjoy. I think that's what can make music so transcendent and special when you're talking about, cross continent, cross time zone, cross cultures, whatever it is. So I would think that as you keep going, especially, you're there for a few more months, right? In Uganda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I could be curious to talk to you again after you've been back in the States and playing out here for a few months or a year, how you're incorporating that stylistically, where you started, right? It was a completely different place, and how you're bringing it back to the States would be interested to hear from you in a year, how that's going for you. I'm going to let Ryan in. I think he's back. I'm going to try one more time real quick.
Okay.
Ryan.
Yes.
Yay.
There he is.
Yeah, something happened where I had to go just reset the whole computer. It's an old MacBook, so yeah.
No worries, man. We've been cranking for about 15 minutes or so. So yeah, we'll keep going in a second. But yeah, man, you can hear us okay? You're good?
Absolutely, yes.
Awesome. Yes. Good.
Right on.
Welcome back to the show, man. It's good to have you. We're Jordan and I have been talking for about 15 minutes just about the her start as a DJ in East Africa, and a little bit about the venues, but we got a lot of ground to cover. So So yeah, we were talking, Jordan, we were just talking, you and I, about the other voices. I'm curious if, so your collective, Femme Frequencies, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Are you getting what's the feedback that you're getting from Femme Frequencies? And are they international? Or are they from Uganda, or is it a collective from kind of all over?
Yeah. So the story with Femme Frequencies, I think it was founded maybe October of last year. So it was founded by a DJ named Maryland from Norway and Annie Trax, who is a Ugandan. So I kind of came on after them. I started performing with them from their first event curation onwards. And after the third performance, they were kind enough to kind of let me on in a more organizing position in the collective. But yeah, as for feedback, we're still building up the collective and building up an audience. As I was mentioning before, techno in East Africa is still a very young scene. So you have that, challenge up front. But also being a female only collective has its own challenges, especially in this region. Something about Uganda is that it is a very patriarchal culture. So I think women, especially in this region, face a lot of challenges with having the opportunity to learn new skills, especially break into the music space. Mm-hmm. So I think from our end, it takes a lot more advertising and word of mouth to get people to come to these gigs. I mean, in any country, right, I think any female directed initiative or collective, whether that's sports, music, arts, there are a lot more challenges with getting people to come to these events. So we're working on it. This July, I'll be taking more of the lead with organizing an event for that collective. So we're super excited about that. And I'll let you know how that goes. Hopefully we get some more people this time.
Yeah. Are your collective mates also primarily techno? Is that the genre of choice? Or are they more?
Yeah. So it's completely techno. So the original founders, Marina and Anita, they're really trying to put forward a particular style. But, there is a challenge in East Africa. You can't be super strict, especially with techno. So we're trying to figure out ways to branch in different styles of techno that incorporate more percussive elements or experimental textures. So
kind of like a kind of happy medium, right? Between Afro house, sort of techno, kind of, having like congos and stuff. And
for sure.
Even like,
yeah, techno, it's people, as I was mentioning to Ryan earlier, Afro beats and its popularity in this region really make people crave melody and lyrics and something to connect to. So it will take some time and adjusting to allow people to embrace meditative, very hypnotic music, which is the type of techno I personally like. But I think we'll get there for sure.
We'll have to shuttle in some playlists for you guys, for you to like. All right, this is what I could find that's along those lines. For
sure. Yeah. Always open to song recommendations too.
Yeah. Like if you ever seen any of the anything techno bass especially in Amsterdam, a lot of it is sort of like that minimal hypnotic techno, which does have percussions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that stuff. Yeah. But I think it'll take a couple more years before East Africa fully embraces it. But over time.
Ryan has such a not only an expansive library, but is, for my money, one of the most versatile performers in that he can blend genres pretty consistently and with the right energy. It's So for what it's worth, whatever he offers in terms of advice and in terms of music,
it's gotta be like this whole salad mix of like, I'm trying to think of like Brazilian bass house needs to come into my set. I need to come in with Brazilian bass house, which is like, if you look at Beatport, there's all these subgenres that have been kind of like, all right, we're introducing Manipano, and then just recently it's just been Brazilian bass house. This is back on the radar. Yeah.
Okay. I need to check that genre out.
Library.
Yeah. How do you organize your music folders, Ryan? I'm curious. Is it like broken down super precisely into like energy or subgenres?
Oh gosh, yeah, like it is like a, let's say, like that movie Inception, where it kind of just like, you open one box and you keeps going further until you knock it down to BPM, to key, energy shift, to even like Tommy understands this, like you tag it as, all right, this is build up, this is yeah, it's kind of like you put it in the purple, you put it in the red, and yeah,
Awesome.
very intricate,
Yeah.
especially if it's a big gig. If it's an upcoming thing with like for the 4th of July, that one, I have to specifically go, or I can do organic house, a little bit of disco, and some jacking,
Mm-hmm.
then someone has to follow me, so I'm like, okay, she might be doing some breaks, so I have to kind of lean into her segueing pretty easily to it.
Awesome. I think the
Yeah.
biggest surprise I've had learning how to DJ the past year is, there's the technical part of learning how to mix the sounds together with a controller, but I think most of it is honestly how you categorize your music and organize it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Honestly, learning how to do that properly has helped me more than the actual mixing techniques and special effects.
Yeah, it's one of the things that becomes, at least has become for me, and will become, I'm sure for you if it's not already, when you're DJing on a bigger lineup, like when you're in your studio or your bedroom and you're playing your music, like it's kind of easy to categorize the energy according to just kind of how you're feeling. But when you get into that room, the room is different, the lineup is different, and so what feels like build up energy, when you're in your studio, can very much feel like high energy, a little too intense, or the other way too, right? It can feel like,
Yeah.
hey, we need a little more. So it's always interesting to hear how people are organizing their, not just organizing their folders, how they're categorizing them in terms of energy, or in terms of mood or vibe, or however you want to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as you enter a new room, you've kind of got to shift a little bit to be like, oh, that was a great build
Yeah.
like last week, but something's not right here, right?
So
Like,
true. So true.
yeah. Um, Are you?
Yeah.
So tell us about. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was about to say, what the events you guys have? Do you guys have it on, like, a lot of it's on middle of the week, end of the week? Like, how's it structured?
Just for the Uganda scene in general or the Femme Frequencies collective?
Yeah. Oh, from both, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
Femme Frequencies, we do it, I'd say, once every 2 months. But for the Uganda scene in general, so people say here there's always a party going on every single night of the week. But for
Uh-huh.
electronic music specifically, I would say Friday and Saturday only. But during the week, I mean, their nightlife and party culture here is actually very, very large. But it would be specifically for Afrobeats and Mapiano. For example, there are areas of town here in Kampala, which is the capital, that are, super busy just on random Tuesdays or Wednesday nights. But for specific
Yeah.
electronic music curations, Friday and Saturday are pretty much the best times to do that.
Is there anything that's
Like,
like? Is there anything that's surprised you about the scene in general? Like, is there any just as a not only as a newcomer but just as a performer? Is there anything that's really like kind of like, oh, I didn't expect that?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of my surprises have been coming from event curation, actually, which
Yeah.
is really something I've branched into in the past 3 months, I would say. But event curation is really, really hard, and a lot of people
Yeah.
don't give it the credit it deserves. One really big overarching issue in East Africa is that there really isn't a lot of funding or support for music or art curations. And
oh,
this is common not only in Uganda, but Kenya, Tanzania, and I imagine
Yeah.
in many other places in Africa. So, I hosted my first independent event a couple weeks ago with a few other DJs in Kampala. It was great. We had great attendance, but at the end of the day, it was a bit of a loss of money. So all of
Yeah.
these nightlife events that happen in Uganda in the electronic scene are usually independently run by
yeah.
people who just want to throw a great event with their friends and for other DJs in the city. But all of these events lose money pretty much every time.
Are you finding like the throw an event, you have your lineup, and without fail, half the people in the crowd have a USB and want to hop on at some point? Does that happen in Uganda as well?
Honestly, I don't think that's ever happened. Not at the gigs I've been
Really?
to. And
Cool. Can we play in Uganda? That would be great.
No, the best thing and the worst thing about the Ugandan scene is that for beginning DJs who want to start out and get performance experience is great, because the scene is so undersaturated and every gig needs new DJs. But on the same end, I feel like there isn't a lot of support for DJs in the scene, and
Sure.
I think I do want to be transparent on pay for DJs in the scene here, because I think it would be an interesting perspective. So the average from gigs I've seen earns about, I think, 150 to 200 UGX per gig, even less than that. And so that's about maybe $30 or so USD. And there are people in the scene who rely on these gigs and event curations for their sole source of income. So it's really sad to see a lack of support and funding for this industry. I really hope in the future that it gains more popularity, and interest, especially for the electronic scene, because it's definitely not the same moneymaker, or doesn't have the same source of popularity that it does in the United States, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any, or who are the, producers, Ugandan producers or performers that stand out, whether in techno or otherwise? Are there, like, you have any hidden gems you would tell us to, hey, be on the lookout for?
Yeah. So I think I'll point your attention to one event curation or collective in Kampala, which I think is super revolutionary. It's called Underground Kampala. This is actually where I got inspired to begin DJing. The founder, his name is Richard Odoi. He's half Ugandan, half Kenyan, and he had this great idea to start the first techno collective here in Uganda, which is amazing. This is his sole obligation. Every month he hosts these amazing electronic techno-based parties in Uganda. He's been pulling in people from Europe, overseas, all around East Africa. So I really hope his collective gains more traction. Ola Hefe, he's one of my favorite Afro house DJs in the community here. He's been doing some great work internationally. We have a couple other DJs, Hibotep and Raindrops. They play more experimental kind of techno sounds. But yeah, there are many people here branching into the production space and amazing collectives. But I think the problem is a lot of people don't pay attention to the scene in East Africa.
Sure.
So hopefully this podcast will, kind of bridge that gap for people.
I think that's what that's what we're taking pride in. We're at least send it out to promote them through our podcast, and hopefully just kind of has a reach from there.
Absolutely. Yeah. You guys are doing some great work. There's so much you can do with the podcast. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. A small part of an important series of things that I think we would all like to happen to grow the scene, but also, like you were talking about, to garner support for the scene, right? And to create opportunities. And if we have a however small role to play in that, like, we're happy to help tell the story. Like, we're happy to share ideas, share music. That's what this is all about. It's all, for us, it's all about the music. And we're just happy to be a small part of it,
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah.
What about yourself? Do you have any aspirations to produce your own music?
I've thought about it, and I think I'm very interested.
You don't have to be musical.
Yeah.
You don't have
I don't know.
I've learned piano. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm considering, going down the whole Ableton track here in the next few months, but I found a lot of joy in curating events. I honestly think that there is a really big need in the space for people to organize and really think out these event curations to feature other artists. Also, I'm not sure how musically talented I am, but yeah, probably not very much, but I think I would have more to offer to the event curation space.
As you've been in Uganda for 2 years, 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
Right. Anywhere, like, are you seeing trends that jump out to you as like, oh man, this is what's really changed electronic music over the last 2 years?
I think one thing to note, so in East Africa in general, and this can explain why the market is a bit undersaturated right now, COVID really negatively affected the Ugandan scene in particular. So, for example, there were a lot of DJs perhaps who were developing their skills and gaining traction, but as soon as COVID hit, nightlife really, really took a toll in the country and the region as a whole. One thing to note is that for electronic music, the expat scene really serves as a big source of the audience there. So when COVID happened, a lot of companies and government agencies pulled out of Uganda. So nowadays, post-COVID, you don't have a lot of expats based here anymore. So you lose a big chunk of that electronic music scene and the nightlife scene for that music. Another thing to note is that I think in the past 2 years, maybe 2 years ago, Uganda passed a law that states if you identify as LGBTQ, you will be sent to prison, which was a very big game changer, I think, for the electronic scene, because a lot of rave culture is based in acceptance and being comfortable in your own skin. So because of that, I think a lot fewer people felt comfortable engaging in the nightlife scene, especially with electronic music, which has been very, very sad. Yeah. So I think because of these changes, DJs and producers who really have been building their skills for years and years just don't have the same platform to be visible as they would maybe in the States or in a different region of the world.
Yeah. That's just a bizarre and unfortunate series of circumstances, right? Like it here, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, we're not immune to those things, obviously, but like it seems because dancing is a place to be accepted and to accept others. It's tough to hear that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I honestly don't know what is going to cause that revival of the scene. I think honestly, people need to do their part to pay more attention to this region, pay more attention to DJs coming from East Africa. One thing I would love to do later in life is come back to this region to really invest in some of the electronic scene, bring more music festivals to this region, have more sponsorship for the arts. And, this can be done from wherever in the world, but I think people need to pay more attention to this region.
So, I mean, I'm trying to gather if this is something that, like, as far as our socials are probably either aware or unaware of. I would like to think that we're trying to keep everything in the whole aspect that community is community. You all sort of, like, if you have to, just send it underground and try to get an underground based thing for those that are just struggling to come out and show their true colors. And kind of feeling like if you're LGBTQ, it's just kind of I hate to think that you're it's just I can't imagine emotionally how that would feel, not being able to go and dance somewhere.
No, it's pretty bad. Like, even for me as an expat working over in Uganda, people in my group of colleagues, before we came, we all had to really evaluate, okay, will this law prevent me from doing proper work in the country? So it's there a few years ago, I think before COVID times, there used to be like underground pride festivals in Uganda, which was super interesting to learn about, but it's gotten so strict and rigid here now that they can't even have those anymore. So it's a very dangerous culture if you are a part of that community, and it's very sad to see.
in some way, I'm sure you're looking forward to. I'm guessing you're looking forward to getting back to the States, performing, and really like taking part in and like fully immersed in those things that are missing, right? The things you're describing, right? Because that's what the scene is here. Like you've got such a broad, diverse, welcoming communities. What else are you looking forward to? What are you looking forward to about returning to the US in terms of performing or as a raver, consumer of music, dancing, etc.?
Oh gosh, yeah. So I think the biggest thing I've missed while being in Uganda is that music community. There is a small electronic scene here, but I really miss that rave community that I fell in love with. I just love how accepting and cordial it is. Ryan and I can both attest that Tomorrowland was just an example of how beautiful that experience can be. So I miss that community. I'm excited to get involved with the festival scene and local music scene in whatever city I end up in. But I will say I really will miss how unique and niche the East African electronic music scene is. I think starting out here, I've been able to really engage with performances and get an appreciation for event curation and what it takes to host these events, from the ground up. And I do worry that, in the States, the market.
Yeah, we're here to support.
Yeah,
we're here to support. As soon as you land, me and Tom, be like, yeah, let's get her in lineups. Let's get.
Say
techno.
We're eager to see what you bring back. I mean, you're going to have certainly going to have a unique flavor of an experience to bring back, and I'm sure we're looking forward to it. Can't wait.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, no, I would definitely love to perform with you guys at some point. Ryan and I were talking about, building up the techno scene in DC and working on that.
Did we ever tell you how we met?
No, talk about that. How did you talk about? You're talking about you two, not us two, right? Like,
no. Yeah. So we had an event. I believe it was, what month was it?
It's December.
When were you here? It's like December. Yes, right. That's right. Yeah. You and Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon's awesome.
Yeah. Brandon's off in where, Hawaii or somewhere.
Yeah, he's building up the scene in Hawaii, so I have a feeling he'll be a big name one day. So Tommy, Ryan and I went to Above and Beyond together at Echo Stage. It was a great time, and we both bonded over our experience at Tomorrowland. Ryan, I hope you're excited for this year. I'm excited to see the stage and everything you post in your stories.
If it was anything like last year, of course, if it was anything like last year, it's gotta be all right. Back to that moment, and I'm experiencing it this year again, and I will be with my group again. It's just everything that you could say is just well worth the trip and the price of that ticket.
Oh yeah,
and
that was very expensive. That festival is, but
yeah.
Ryan, I'll spare like the full details. I'm sure Ryan shared the story before, but Ryan was delayed getting back to the States post Tomorrowland last year, and when he got back, it must have been like that day or the next within 24 hours. He was at our Friday event series we did last year, and it was like might be the best Ryan Soho set.
Cheers.
Ever. I love it.
I mean, I've seen Ryan and I've seen Ryan play, heard Ryan play, like played with, B2B with Ryan, probably 50, 60 times. Like we've been doing this together for a couple years. So like we've seen each other a lot.
Yeah.
That energy, that music, the like the acid techno house. This is all we were talking about earlier, how Ryan weaves different genres and different sounds together.
I came back with like different powers from Tomorrowland. I swear to God, I was like, I'm DJing like a upgrade of whatever. I just went up in levels. I just like I'm taking a lot from that show, from that experience.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I need to present that myself in that, and trying to I'm not trying to emulate, but I felt like when I saw some of those DJs, I was just like, God, I need to. wow, I'm fresh eyes, just the whole, just feeling refreshed from it in general.
So for you, Jordan, for anybody listening, watching, like the first Ryan Soho set when he returns from Tomorrowland, whether that's Techno Tuesday, live in person, whatever it is, like we're gonna be prepared for it, because it's gonna be epic again, man. Yeah.
Amazing. Please record that one for all of us.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. It's like one of the big regrets from all those events we did last year is we didn't record very much, right? Like we worked really hard, talk about event curation and such. We worked really hard to put the events together. It was a full setup for us. So we had to bring, our own CDJs, own mixer, own speakers, own setup, work with the house to get the screens working, and work with the artists to make sure that they were there on time, that, everybody had the space, the drink, whatever they needed, right? Top to bottom, soup to nuts, however you want to say it. Like working really hard on curating and hosting events can sometimes lead to a point of exhaustion where you're like, I know I love this music, but I just want to go sit down. Like I just want to go sit down for a minute. Right. And it stinks because it makes things go by so fast. And then you look back and you're like, damn, I really wish I would have captured something from that, right? Because if you're there to dance, you're there as someone who just enjoys it, right? You're showing up to support your friends. There's a lot less pressure to capture it, right? And that's, you want to, we can get into like a phones, no phones thing, but like part of putting these events on is being able to, for me at least, being able to kind of relive them, recreate those moments. At the same time, I kind of understand like the idea of how great Ryan's set was might actually serve me better than listening to it over and over and over, because I'll see him again.
I'm glad. Because I'm glad. I'm like, I totally forgot that gig, and I would have never known how I did. And you were just like, yeah, wait a minute, that was kind of cheesy, I thought, but hey, it came out pretty well.
I think Carlos and I were both like jaws on the floor, like Ryan's back. Yeah. Jordan, what are some of your favorite venues back in the States?
Oh, wow. So I'm super new to the rave scene in the States. Mm-hmm. Like I said, my first event was in January of 2023. So, but I actually lived in Houston before moving to Uganda. So Stereo Live was the only venue there. I think that was, taking in big artists. So Stereo Live was very good.
Mm-hmm. Is that like an Echo Stage, or is that kind of like an Echo Stage either?
It was a bit smaller than Echo Stage, but the sound system was great. I will say Echo Stage, at first I was like, why is this venue rated so high on these lists?
Yeah.
And then I remember at Above and Beyond, like I think the best part was that they gave out free waters to people. Like that should be a mandatory thing at every venue, in my opinion. Echo Stage was great. I have been to Flash nightclub, but I didn't really love how constricted it felt. Yeah, perhaps with a different DJ, a different, crowd in there, it would be better. But I remember at Flash, there were, I feel like I could sense a lot of the crowd wasn't there for the music. They were just there for the party. Yeah, I really like Elsewhere in Brooklyn. That's a really great venue. I've had some good memories there. But I think those are the only ones I've really been exposed to in the States. But I'm excited to really dive into that scene more and see some more venues when I'm back stateside.
Yeah, any on the top of your list that you kind of must do, or whether it's venues or cities when you get back?
Gosh, I wouldn't
say... We had a recent one in Detroit. That was something that I thought you'd really like. That's on my list. Movement in Detroit.
Yeah. Well, festivals, I definitely have a lot on the bucket list there. Movement is actually, I think, on the top of my list, just because I love that Detroit techno sound. But yeah, I think in order to fully transition back, without a ton of stress and difficulties, I'm trying to keep an open mind. So, once I figure out what city I'm going to be in next, I'm going to start diving into the scene there and exploring the local venues. That is super exciting to me.
Yeah. You talked, shifting gears a little bit, you talked about, influence, you're being influenced by kind of the Berlin techno. Are there any other like sounds or particular artists that influence you or inspire you, or kind of push your musical boundaries right now?
Yeah, so for me, I think being in Uganda has really made me value, vocals and melodies tied with
Mm-hmm.
this hypnotic sound of, monotonous techno. So I really love Kevin Saunderson, a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
originators of Detroit techno, Jeff Mills. I've been trying to incorporate more of, I guess, hard groove techno with more of a groovy sound into my sets. I find that, especially with East African audiences, they connect a lot more to vocals, melodies, a bit of disco elements in the music. So any DJ or producer that has some vocals, has a bit of groove, I like their sound for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me think. I would say that coming into how we've got to bring the BPM down according to Tommy.
Yeah.
You don't
According to
have to.
Tommy.
You don't have to do anything. You can do whatever you
No.
want. You can do whatever you want.
Is there like, all right, so if I thought about this, like, everything with like what's going on virally, I'm just kind of like, trying to peek into YouTube land. And
Mhm.
what certain sound that you picked up on that's sort of something unbeknownst to a lot of people, not techno heads like Tommy. Like, what would be something that, like, it goes into like sort of more to that organic field, or you know
Um,
or melodic field,
yeah, I guess, but you're asking what is kind of an up and coming scene or something
like
that's
like a
maybe.
starting like a yeah starting to become like people would love to in I don't know, like, I don't know, this is the weird thing about like this question. Okay, so I'm trying to think about uh like the Dutch culture, like hard, like all like hard, it's not hard, it's hard style, but it's also like going into um what is it, it's like hard dance, all this stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
Are we shifting out of that a little bit, or
I I'd like to. Sadly, I think we're still going in the direction of, faster BPMs, a lot of remixed songs with techno. At least that's what's getting the
yeah, like,
most media attention today. But um,
yeah, like
I,
Coachella recently has,
yeah, I mean, that techno is
like
great.
Coachella recently,
Yeah. But I think eventually, and I'd really like to be part of pushing this movement forward, is we really need to slow it back down. I think the generations of today, especially in my culture, we're very dopamine driven with the amount of social media and media focused things in our lives. And I think, getting
hmm
back to this slower, like 130, 135 techno, with a bit of groove, a bit of style, I think that's really where we should try to push things. Um, because I think if you can really slow down your focus and really appreciate slower music that isn't always just grabbing your attention left and right, I think that gives you a deeper appreciation of that techno sound. Um, yeah, so hopefully audiences will respond to that in the future. But in the meantime, you're still going to see, people like Sarah Landry on the main stage at these festivals, remixing a bunch of pop songs, which captures the audience.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I love that there's like at least like the whole audiences are sort of like opening themselves up, especially Coachella. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Coachella, I mean, I think there are a lot of criticisms of that festival, but honestly, if you can get more people introduced to electronic music, I think that's a great thing. I've had a couple of friends who don't really have an interest in the genre, but after going to Coachella, they, started to appreciate more of these DJs and the
Yeah,
electronic sounds. And I think that's a win for the genre as a whole.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, whether it's techno, whether it's down tempo stuff, or anywhere in the middle, the more places we can push the boundaries, the more places we can introduce new music to broader crowds. Again, I've said this time and time again, like I'm all for it, right? We should continue to broaden our scopes as opposed to narrowing. And it feels like sometimes, yeah, like there's the remixes, there's the high BPMs. To snap that feels, especially when you're performing, feels pretty good to be like, hey, we're headed down this road of like and I know there's some performers who actually do it within their sets, where they have like a, 2 hour, 3 hour, 8 hour, whatever club space style, like tech house set. Then they'll drop something in that's like dub, wub, like something that's different, something vocal, something. Yeah. And in fact, Reed Jackson, Eaton Radio, the Coffee Club Social, Eaton Radio last night, he did the same thing. He drops a lot of disco, and they slowed a tempo into this vocal that was like lovely, rock you to sleep, and then right back to the disco, right? So anytime you can kind of push outside of your genre, even if it's only for 16 bars, 30, whatever, like it doesn't matter. I think it rearranges people's vibe, rearranges the brain just enough to be like, oh, there's more out there than just like straight line down this road of like high BPMs, or on the other end, like, let me just get in a melodic, hypno state for the next 6 hours, which sounds awesome to me, but it might not be for everybody.
Yeah. One genre I feel like that hasn't taken off in the African continent is dubstep, or that heavy bass music. I really would love to see that take more of a presence here, because I think it allows people to release a lot of energy. That music is also very hypnotic, but it also can be melodic in its own way. So I think that's one scene that I feel that needs to still be introduced over in this region. Hopefully one day.
Yeah. Well, Jordan, we're getting close to an hour, so I want to make sure I'm mindful of your time.
You're
anything else you want to share with us about either your own journey or Femme Frequencies, or just again, this, I think we covered what you had put in the message, making sure we talk about the scene there, curating events, and your collective. Anything else you want to share with us before we take off?
I think my last message and call for people is to really pay attention to the electronic music industry here. There are a lot of artists and a lot of people who have a great vision for this music, but there really isn't a lot of sponsorship or attention on this scene as a whole. I would love to see more DJs in the United States. Come visit this region. The scene here is more than willing to take on DJs from other countries. If you are planning to visit Sub-Saharan Africa at any time, look up their electronic music scene, reach out to the collectives, have a performance here. Most collectives are really needing DJs and new talent over here. Whatever you can do to get more attention on this region would be great. And I definitely hope this podcast is open to interviewing, someone from East Africa, an East African native, about their experiences, because, their perspectives will go deeper than mine. And I think they will have more of a story to share, especially for people over in the States.
Sure. Yeah. We'd love to make that happen. Yeah. It's such a good idea. And I appreciate you bringing it to us, because I know Ryan and I would love to make that happen. And continuing, again, like you said before, continue to build the community and give the community an opportunity to kind of share their experience and share their voice. We're all for it. So
awesome. Yeah, I think that's it though. And, I'd love to see you guys back stateside. I'll be very tied to DC regardless. So hopefully we can team up for an event and share some music, build up the techno scene there. It'd be great.
Yeah, of course, Jordan. Thank you so much for the time. We look forward to sharing not only your experience through the podcast, but as you continue to post to SoundCloud, share your events on socials, etc. We want to support your experience.
Yeah, get some more mixes out there.
We can.
Yeah. You guys too. Keep on posting. I've been, ever since meeting Ryan, I've been really invested in your guys' collectives and videos. So, keep it up. And hopefully I'll see you guys back stateside.
Awesome. Likewise. Hope to see you soon. Be good. Be safe. Have a great performance. Great event tonight. And we will talk to you again hopefully soon.
Okay.